when Janae was going through her hard time, like, was it frustrating? Absolutely, it was frustrating, but it wasn't frustrating because of like her actions. It was frustrating because we didn't know, like, we couldn't just fix it. We couldn't just say, oh, this is what you need. And, and you would text me all the time. Thank you so much. Like, I understand if you don't want to, help anymore, but I'm just not that type of person. Even if I was like I just couldn't do it anymore, I still would. One, because you do it every day. You don't get to say no.
Okay, everybody. It's a new episode 2 under Divinely Different, the new name. So exciting. I have a very special guest. She has become a very good friend of mine. And I'm really excited to interview her. She's not a special needs parent, but she does work with special needs people. She has tons of experience. And she just has a great story. So I'm just excited to talk to her about that and let you guys get to know her. So I will let her introduce herself. Hey, best friend.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm good. I look kind of homely, but that's okay.
No, you don't. It's cute. The pink and then the red. I love it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so give us a good introduction.
All right. Well, my name is Jackie Bledsoe, legally still Jortheim. But so if you see me anywhere else, that's why. But I am born and raised in a small town in Wisconsin, about an hour east of Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities. It's a good geographical point, I guess. A lot of times people say, what about Green Bay, Milwaukee? I'm clear on the west side of the state over there. So never even been to those places.
I do know about Milwaukee.
No. Yeah. A lot of people do, like Racine and stuff. Never been there. I've been to Madison. I've been to the Capitol only for state football games, so nothing fun.
That's funny.
So I have two older sisters. My mom had me later in life at 35. So my sisters were 13 and 15 when I was born, and my sisters have the same dad, and I have a different dad. And they've always kind of gotten along. My dad was really strict. My middle sister, Becca, she got pregnant when she was 16, and had Alyssa right after she turned 17. And so I was an aunt when I was 4. Wow. And that really led to my love for children.
Yeah.
It's just something so special that, especially growing up with them in the same token, I look back on it a lot and I think, wow, it's almost like I had little brothers and sisters versus like nieces and nephews. But it's kind of like I got the best of both worlds with that. I always wanted a little brother or sister, but I didn't want the attention taken off of me from my parents. So it was just perfect that
Jackie likes attention, y'all. She likes attention.
Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. But back then, when you're 4 and you're 5.
Yeah.
You like the attention on you, especially when you've been spoiled your whole life by 2 older sisters and all that. And so really just growing up with these kids, and my other sister was pregnant at the same time, actually, when she was a senior, and had her baby 6 months after Becca had her baby. So Alyssa and Dylan are 6 months apart. Alyssa was born in June and Dylan is in December. So he just turned 23. That sounds really weird.
And how old are you?
What year is it?
2022.
I'm 27. I'll be 28 in February.
Okay.
So getting up there. It's just crazy to say like, oh, they're 23. And I'm like, oh, so how old does that make you, Jackie? Gosh, bless. But it's just kind of cool because now like Dylan has a baby of his own. Him and his wife, they just got married in September. Alyssa gets married in June. And so it's kind of, and my second oldest niece, she has an almost 2-year-old. He's 1.5. So it's just crazy that, my babies are having babies, and I'm not quite there yet. We're working on it, but it's just one of those things. I think maybe God spoiled me too much with my nieces and nephews that he said, now just take some time for you, maybe, and your husband, and it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. So lived my whole life in Wisconsin, Met my husband, super quick fluke story, in the hotel elevator in Superior, Wisconsin. He is from Salina, Kansas. He was up there for 10 days for work, and I happened to meet him on day 9. Yep, met him on day 9 of his trip, and he was a tall drink of water, and I really liked his accent, and so I stalked him on Facebook, and we're married now.
How long have you guys been married then?
So we got married in July of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. So we've been married for 2 years, been together for over 5.
Gotcha. Hey, shout out to Gare Bear.
Gare Bear. I recently found out he does not like being called that.
Yeah, that's why I had to kind of whisper.
That doesn't stop me.
That's fantastic. Okay, awesome. So yeah, it sounds like you've just been blessed enough to be surrounded by children constantly throughout growing up, your childhood. That's crazy. But I mean, it kind of makes sense where your passion comes from. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I want to kind of just start asking all my questions. I want to talk about your work history. Well, actually, backtrack. Sorry, listeners. I'm a little squirrel brain today. I'll get it together. Okay. So what I want to do is just let you guys know how I know Jackie. Know how I know Jackie.
I don't really know her. It's just.
So Jackie and I actually met in the nutrition club, New You Nutrition, owned by Debbie Rogers. Shout out to Debbie, probably the best person in this freaking world.
Such a good human.
I love that. Shout out to Debbie. If you guys have never tried New You Nutrition and you're local, please go by and meet Debbie Rogers. Okay. So I met Jackie in the nutrition club. She came in as a customer. I was behind the bar. She is a Cincy lady. And I didn't know if I was going to like Jackie at first. Our personalities are a little different.
Very much so.
We are definitely different. So at first I couldn't really read her. She has it can be an intimidating demeanor when you meet her. And she doesn't really like start talking like I do right away. Like she's not just like word vomiting all over you. So, but we started kind of get to know each other at the club. She found out she was getting ready to be a para again. I think at that point, maybe when I first met you, I don't know if you were in the school yet again, but I know you were getting ready to start working for the school. And so kind of just got to know her a little more, got to know her Cincy business and became a customer, Cincy customer. And then things just kind of, I think God just kind of aligned things because then once I got to know her, she started helping with Judea. I don't know when I asked or how it even came up, but she was willing to help us with Judea. And it takes special people to work with special people. So that's kind of like a quick rundown of how I know Jackie. So she does help us with Judea now a lot. After school, she's a saving grace. I would not be able to work if I didn't have her help. So she's become a huge part of our tribe, and Judea she's stuck through some pretty rough times with us. So when you know, when you meet those people that are meant to be a part of your tribe. So she's definitely part of the Bunville tribe. So anyways, that's the quick rundown there. Okay, Jackie. So let's talk about your career, or your past jobs, your job history. I want to know what your experience is with special needs people, disabled people, whatever title you want to put on that, people that are special. What is your job history like? Give us a rundown.
I am going to start. My senior year in high school, I had TAPT is what they called it in Wisconsin. I guess it's like you get credit for it, but you go help, like you're a student teacher kind of, or you help the teacher. And I was in the kindergarten classroom, and I actually loved it so much. I started taking my lunchtime and I would go help another kindergarten classroom. And so at this point, I wanted to be an administrative professional. And that's still something that I love doing. I like the boring paperwork. I like being on the computer, filing things. I'm just weird like that. But at that point, I decided I was going to go to school for early childhood education.
Oh.
And so when I graduated, I went to a local tech college there.
Mm-hmm.
It was easy enough. I just at that point was not responsible. I wasn't in the right mindset. Like as an adult now, you know, at 26 years old, I decided I want to go back to college because I know what I want to do because I've had the experiences that I've had and I
Right.
know what I want to do, and I'll get to that. But so and my grandma had died, and so I kind of just used that as an excuse to like why I was failing. And I actually flunked out. They wouldn't even let me come back.
Oh,
And
wow.
so at that point, I was working at a gas station part-time too. And I decided that, you know, that wasn't enough money for me. I
Right.
wanted a new car. I wanted all these things. So I actually started worked two jobs, in in-home healthcare with the special needs. One was just like older people, and I'd
Okay.
work 48 hours straight there. And then that was Friday morning to Sunday morning,
Uh-huh.
or Friday night to Sunday night. And then I did overnight Sunday through Friday, or Sunday through Thursday
Oh,
at
wow.
a place for special needs. And they were like the older
Adults?
generation with special
Okay.
needs,
Okay.
but they were born with. It wasn't
Right.
so much the dementia or Alzheimer's that I was working
Okay.
with at the weekend place.
Okay.
And even at, you know, 19 years old, your body's just not made to be up all night. I just couldn't cut it. I was getting in trouble because I was falling asleep. I was just, and they didn't really have a lot of places for me to go during the day, except for
Mm-hmm.
this one place. So I quit the weekend job and I went daily to this other job, but like there was no staffing, kind of like how it's always been in the
Yeah.
home in the healthcare field. There's just
Yeah.
never enough people. And so, you know, the call center be calling, oh, somebody called in tonight, can you stay? Or we're short staffed, can you go help at another house? And I'm not kidding you. It was illegal how many hours I was putting in and not sleeping. Like it was it was absolutely crazy. And I don't think I could ever do that now. But back then
Right.
when you're younger, you're like, oh, I'll have time to sleep
Yeah.
when I'm dead. You know, so
Yeah.
that was my
Yeah.
mindset a lot. And it really messed me up. And I actually have degenerative disc disease.
Okay.
Um, I have it's a my dad, my grandpa have it, but it really went into full effect when I started taking care of the older people at the weekend job because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a lift, they didn't have
Yeah.
the everything that I needed, and so I was just lifting, and I was way skinnier back then. I was smaller, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like 250 pounds, and I'd have to pick her up, rotate her all by myself. There was no lift, there was no Hoyer, there was no sit to stand, nothing. And I just know that that's really how my back issues started. And back then they weren't near as bad. It's almost like when I stopped
Mm-hmm.
the home health care,
Yeah.
that's when my back got bad, I think, because it was just like, oh, now I can sit back and realize that all these things
Are
are why
hurting.
your back
Mm-hmm.
hurts.
Yeah.
And so really kind of was just there for probably 6 months, just working my butt off. Got a different job.
Uh-huh.
And I worked at that house for up until I moved to Kansas. So I
Oh,
was there
okay.
for probably 5 or 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, my boss was my best friend. I worked a lot then too, don't get me wrong, but it was really something that I loved to do. So it wasn't so much like work to
And
me.
and you were doing the same thing in this other home that you were in for 5 or 6 years?
In this home, I had a client, he had actually built the home
Okay.
before and then he was in a motorcycle accident and had a brain
Oh,
injury. And so he had
okay.
built this beautiful 5-story home.
Oh, wow.
And so obviously and he had never had kids, was never married. He was just a biker, you know, like doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And so after his accident, they needed some way to bring money in, I guess,
Yeah.
to pay for the house and help him. So a company came in. I
Okay.
can't talk about the company, but
That's
a company
fine.
came in, moved in a couple more clients. And so then I had one with just autism. And he could drive and all that. He was just
Okay.
not really responsible,
Yeah.
you know, to
Yeah.
be honest. And then I had one, like, he had bipolar, borderline
Okay.
personality. He was there was a time I lost so much weight because I was kind of scared to go to work because I had seen
Oh,
him, a grown man, you know, hurt
yeah.
people. And I was always so afraid to make him mad. I did not want that to happen to me. And then and in between and that was when I met Garrett. Actually, I had moved a client who had hip surgery up to Superior in one of their 1-level homes.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up meeting Garrett. And so, I was there for 5 years, loved the clients dearly. And they just were like family, because you don't get Christmases off, you don't get Christmas Eve off, you don't get Thanksgiving off, because somebody needs to be there for these people. And many times I took a couple of them to like my own family's Thanksgiving.
Oh, did you?
So it was fun. It was definitely
sweet.
fun.
I love
so
that.
So that's just kind of, I've always just done things I've helped people, I guess, and that's not like tooting my own horn. That's what I like to do. I like the feeling of helping.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So what drew you, I guess, because you're a para now. Jackie's a para at one of the schools in Salina, and she works with special needs kids. So what draws you to want to work with special needs kids? I mean, I am not trying to be offensive to any special needs child. I obviously have one, but we know, the ones that know, it is not easy day in and day out. So I'm really curious why, when you could work in a regular, regular classroom or with regular kids, why do you choose the special needs route?
I get that a lot, especially from my husband. If I come home after a long day, getting kicked or bitten, or he's like, for $12 an hour, like, you can find something that pays you more, whatever.
Yeah.
One thing that I will say is all children, whether they have special needs or not, they're also different, and they all, I truly believe that they all come into your life and they all have something to teach you. Right. At least one thing. They have something to teach you, whether that's your own patience, whether it's just, the love that you would have for, your students. Just they teach you something. And so I just feel like, especially with the special needs kiddos, and there's some really rough days. And one in particular, he gives me the roughest days, but I have the softest heart for him. And they're just so smart. And I think that's another thing that people don't understand. When I talk to my husband about it, I can't name names, and I don't name names to him either. But I talk about it, he's like, so they can't speak, or, they're nonverbal. And I say that, and he's like, well, how do they know anything? And it's just, I guess, until you're in that position, you can see how the different kids communicate if they don't speak, or, it's just, it's fun. And I don't know how to word it. It's a beautiful thing to watch, especially when you're helping them learn. And, I have my one-on-one that technically I'm with, who is classified as nonverbal. And just to see the growth from last year with her to this year, to where she can say some words now, or, she's whatever, she's a little, it's easier for her to communicate now than it was. And I truly believe that's because of the teachers and the paras that have helped her.
Yeah.
And, her home life, obviously her mom and stuff. But it's also just crazy to sit back and look at the progress that children have made, whether in the moment, if you think that they're not making any progress, which is what, in my mind, and not that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm not doing enough, because why am I not seeing any progress?
Right.
And then a weekend will come, or a break will come, and we'll come back, and I'm like, I didn't realize how much we actually progressed in this.
Yeah.
Because, when you're in it every day, it's hard to see the progression until you take a step back, or you have a break, and you're like, oh, wow.
Right. And I think we're looking, even just from a parent perspective, I think we're looking for progress to look so big, and progress can look so small and be just as mighty. So I think that's something I've learned. It's we expect progress to look a certain way. And in reality, sometimes it's the smallest, tiniest thing, but it is mighty, and I think that's what's also exciting about just kids in general, but special needs kids, is those tiny little moment are so mighty. Like you learned to really bask in those things. So yeah.
Well, not only that, but like, and then all these little tiny progressions, or, however you want to scale it, their progression. It's better than going backwards.
Right.
And even if you do go backwards, obviously, if you were here and you came back to here, there's still like, you can still get to where you were because you were there before.
Right.
So even if there are steps back, I try not to look at it as too much of a negative thing.
Right.
Like maybe just at this point, their brains not having it. Like there's too much going on, too much overload. We're going to reel it back in this instance, so I can maybe go forward in this one, and then we'll come back and work on this.
Yep. Yeah.
And another reason, why I love what I do, and because of people like Judea, and I have a cousin who has a brain injury.
Okay.
She was a complete, just the baddest woman you knew. Like she was Harley Davidson. Like I used to be in awe of her. And mind you, my mom had me later in life. So like all my cousins should be like my aunts and uncles, and all my aunts and uncles should be like my grandparents, because my mom was also the baby. And so I just remember like, oh my God, she's so cool. I want to be like her. Well, she got into a motorcycle accident and flew off her bike and hit her head on the pavement. And so she was in a coma for a month and had to have part of her skull. She had to learn how to walk, talk, and everything again. And she's always going to have the mentality of a 14-year-old. And that gets really hard to deal with every day. And so I remember being there for the summers and helping out. And I just remember thinking like, I want somebody to take care of her like they were her cousin.
Right.
And that's kind of how I am now with the kids. Like if that was my kid, I would want somebody with my heart, with my goals, I guess, for each child, because I work with many different children, and every child's goals or what they're working towards are different. And so it's also very like, I think it doesn't get talked about enough, but it's heavy on a teacher or a para's principal on their mind, because how many kids do you have that are all at different levels? Like think of a teacher with 20 kids in her room. And you're trying to teach a reading lesson. Well, not all 20, you might have 10 different kids on 10 different reading levels, and you have to break it down into 10 different ways to explain it to them. It's just, it is a lot. But they do it, and we do it, and we love it. And it really helps the children. And I guess that's really why I do it. And especially for the special needs kiddos, I want them to feel like nobody ever gave up on me. Like, like they still worked with me even when I was frustrating to them, when I didn't want to work, when I was being, non-compliant. Like they never just said, fine, then don't do it. Like whatever, they still pushed me or, supported me until I was ready to do my thing.
Absolutely. And that's awesome, because as not even like speaking, I always say kids like Judea. And the reason I say kids like Judea is a nonverbal 7-year-old who probably functions intellectually at the age of 2 or 3, maybe. We don't know. Physically, she's obviously at infant level. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what she's going to do. But as far as being able to live an independent life, she will not be that kiddo. She'll always have mom and dad or whoever. But I say kids like Judea, parents that have kids like Judea, you're talking about how you don't ever want the kids to feel like you ever gave up on them. So for instance, Judea doesn't understand if someone gives up on her. She won't understand that right now anyway. She has no idea what that means. So for me, because my kid doesn't understand that, you are blessing me because I understand that. So Judea went through for our listeners, super rough couple months not too long ago. She was tearing some of her favorite people that she's loved since day one and never had an issue with. She was tearing them up, man. She was violent. She was mad. She was angry. We didn't know what the heck was going on. And there's only certain people that will stick through that type of, it becomes abuse, even though they're not like intentionally like, I'm just going to hurt you. But in my head, it was a blessing because Judea doesn't understand that you didn't give up on her, or that you didn't say, hey, Nika, I can't do this because I do this every day. I don't want to come to your house and have to do this. She has no clue. I do, though. So for me as a parent, that's awesome. It's an awesome feeling to know that you're not giving up on my child, or you're not giving up on their child. So even if you have a kid that doesn't understand what you're doing for them every day, their parent does, and their parent appreciate, or I hope that they appreciate it, you know? So just coming from that perspective, definitely.
Right. And, you know, when Judea was going through her hard time, like, was it frustrating? Absolutely, it was frustrating, but it wasn't frustrating because of like her actions. It was frustrating because we didn't know, like, we couldn't just fix it. We couldn't just say, oh, this is what you need. And, you know, and you would text me all the time, thank you so much. Like, I understand if you don't want to, you know, help anymore, but I'm just not that type of person. Even if I was like, just like, I just couldn't do it anymore, I still would. One, because you do it every day. You don't get to say no. Like, I'm sorry, Judea. Like, mom's not doing it anymore, because you're a mom. You're there, you know. So what was I going to do? Say no? I can't hang out with you for 2 hours because, you know, I'm frustrated. That's not me. And I just knew. And like you said, like, you wouldn't be able to work. Like, you would have to leave early, or I don't know what that would look like. But I love Judea so much that I just kept thinking, like, it'll go back to how it was, you know, the snuggling, the loving, the smiling, the wanting to rub foreheads together. And, you know, and there was many times that, like, after her breakdowns, we would watch that one episode of Masha, and she would just lay on me. And it was like she just needed, I don't know exactly what she needed, if she just needed the comfort, if it was, and we'll never know.
I know. That's the hard part. That's the hard part about what we do, is those kids that can't communicate, man. Even though they do learn how to communicate in their own way, it's still just, oh man. And I think that's with every parent too. I'm not discounting parents that have normal developing children, because it's always a guessing game. But man, when you add in that nonverbal component, oh man.
And even if you think about quote unquote normal developing children, I've known so many, you know, so many normal developing children that wouldn't speak until they were 6 or 7, and, you know, they weren't on the spectrum. They weren't they didn't have any signs of Asperger's or autism or anything like that. They're like, nah, I'm good, I don't want to talk right now. Like, I will show you how I'm going to communicate, and when I'm ready to talk, I'll talk, but you're not going to pressure me into talking, because I'll just throw a fit, and that's not fun for anybody.
That's so true.
Especially with kids like Judea, she can't talk. I don't think she'll ever be able to talk. Maybe I don't
think she'll ever. I mean, people hate it when I say this, and I'm just a very realistic mom, and I've been exposed to this for a while now, that realistically, I don't know if Jay will ever be able to hold a conversation. Do I think she could be like a one word person? Maybe. Yeah, I could see that maybe. But just because of her hearing loss, and the fact that we haven't been able to utilize a hearing aid, we haven't been able to get speech therapy, has not gotten very far with her. I just don't see my kid ever being a kid that could hold a conversation, but I could see my kid communicating with like one of those communicating devices. Definitely. I could see that, but realistically, I just don't think, but who knows?
So then, like,
maybe I'll be wrong.
As the parent or teacher, you have to really focus and hone in on, like, okay, so, you know, you can kind of tell what Jay is communicating. Like, if she's acting a certain way, you're like, okay, she's hungry. Or, okay, her stomach hurts, or, you know, she needs to go to the bathroom, but she can't, whatever. Like, I think that's another thing too, is that if you think about this, the human brain itself, how, you know, somebody could walk in with me and Jay, and we're sitting there, and like, I understand what she needs. And they're like, well, how would you know that? I think it's just part of your human nature. Like, once you just become accustomed to it, whether it's 10 different children with 10 different communication needs, or, you know, all with one different communication. Like it's just, you just become like adapt to it, and you really have to focus though. Sometimes
you
it's
have to
harder.
take that. It takes time and energy to get to know kiddos, adults, whoever with special needs, especially if they're nonverbal. It takes time and energy to get to know them, to understand how they do communicate. And a lot of people don't want to do it because it is frustrating and it's time consuming. And people don't want to take the time for that, which I actually understand. I'm not dogging it. I get it. But how are you going to learn if you're not, willing to put in that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How are you going to learn if you're not willing to learn?
Yeah.
And some people don't want to. And,
right. And
I've seen paras come in, and because there are para positions, where you're just at the back of the classroom, or if you have kids that just need extra help or need something explained further. And then you have the one-on-ones, and you have the ones, or not even one-on-ones, but you're just in the behavioral room or the EBD room, the FLC room. And sometimes there's one-on-ones and sometimes there's not, especially with the shortage of everything going on right now. There's not a lot of one-on-ones where there should be.
Yeah.
And so,
don't get me started.
Yeah. So, and and it just sucks. Like the lead teacher in my room, she's absolutely amazing. And she is just a miracle worker. I don't know how she does what she does, but you just sometimes feel like you're over here, then you're over here because this kid's not getting enough attention because there's not a one-on-one para, but you're supposed to be here with this. And so it's a lot of like, whatever. It makes the day go by a little bit faster.
That's a good way to look at it. Which is
fine. Yeah. And also, I just never understood why, because like I said, parents will come in and they'll realize this is not for them and leave. Right. And I have the most respect for that because I'm not going to sit here and watch you become frustrated and act some sort of way to the students, around the students, whatever, just because you can't internalize. And it does take a lot. It does take a lot for somebody to sit back and say, what, am I comfortable with this? Because some people just flat out are not comfortable.
Right.
And you know what? That's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Then
no
don't do it.
With that. Yeah, exactly.
If you're somebody that like, let me just sit in the corner and watch for a few days so I can see like how you handle a situation. Let me see if I feel comfortable, trying it one time, but with you there, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Great. You're willing to learn. Some people just will never be like that. And they're fine at their desk job or wherever they are. That's fine with them. Right. I'm never going to be content not helping people.
Right.
That's just, and at 26, I decided I'm going back to school full time. Private college. Didn't realize it costs so much extra money when you go to a private college.
Girl.
So that's
hello,
fun
debt.
Fun for me. But I'm going for human and social services, and so many people say, "Well, so you're just going to be a social worker." And when people assume that, they think I'm going into DCF.
Yep.
And they think, "Oh, so you're going to go take people's kids away from them."
Yep.
People don't realize that there's social work everywhere in almost every school, at least in Salina, has their own social worker. Every school, not just the district, every school. Like CAPS, they have different types of social workers. They have a forensic interviewer, one that I actually looked into that for kids who were sexually abused.
Yep.
That you talk to them, talk to the family, figure out
what's going on,
where to go from there. There's just so many different avenues that can be taken.
Right.
And it could be as far like just helping, the homeless population.
Right.
Setting up, just being a voice for them, campaigning, setting up meals on wheels or whatever.
Yep.
There's just so many things that you can do. And would I be content being a para forever? If they paid me better, absolutely. I'd stay there forever. That's just not the case.
Yeah.
And, as we get older, we want to have kids and we want to buy a house.
Right.
I still feel like I'll be doing the same mission.
Yeah.
And helping kids and helping others and families, just on a bigger scale.
Right.
Because as a para, I'm not like emergency services. I'm there every day to help build a little bit more and a little bit more.
Right.
Whereas when I get to where I want to be, I will like in dire situations, like this family is going to lose their home, or, this family's going to lose their kids, or, you know what I mean? Like I'll be able to I don't know, not save lives, but just.
I mean, I think you'll still be, like you said, your title may change, your mission will not. You'll still be serving people, helping people. I think you'll be impacting lives in a different way, but you'll still be impacting lives. So I mean, that's what I get from that is mission is not going to change. Title may change, the pay may change, all of that. But as far as the purpose behind it is not changing, you're still impacting lives the way you want to. And you are going to be able to impact lives on a greater scale as well than you can as a para. Not saying you're not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's awesome that that's where you're choosing to go. You can tell that you have a heart for people in general. What would you say, because you've had exposure to adults and children, would you say that you have a preference or one that you enjoy better than the other, or you feel like it's the same, kind of on the same playing field?
I think they're two separate playing fields,
Okay.
but they both hold the equal amount of space in my heart.
Okay.
And that is because children, so innocent and just small, innocent, very formable, you can shape them, versus adults. They're already, they're shaped, like how they are is how they are, barring, personality disorders, and sometimes things change like that. But like at the core, we're at this certain spot. And, there's been so many that I just absolutely, I love, like I wanted to take them home and just like start my own, like in a home, like you can just come live with me, I'll take care of you for free. Because they were just so sweet. And that's another thing is like, I've never met a person that, like an adult special needs person that has ever meant to cause harm on somebody. Like when they're mad or whatever,
like intentionally.
Yeah. Like, but just like kids, when they get mad or they can't express something to you, they get upset.
Right.
And they'll hit you. They'll throw things because they can't communicate to you why they're upset. So that's what adults will do sometimes. And, and a lot of times they feel terrible afterward. A lot of times children don't. In my experience with the behavioral children, they don't feel bad.
Yeah.
They're like, that happened to you.
Right.
All right.
You got the message.
Let's move on.
You got the message. Come on.
And adults, like, it's so weird because, I've had kids and I've had adults that are on like the same level, like on the spectrum.
Right.
And again, it's one of those things where like, it's just weird because they're an adult and they know remorse and they know. So like, even as a special needs person, they can still, learn feelings and emotions growing up.
Yep.
Like you and I feel.
Yep.
Might look a little different when trying to explain. But really, I love them all so much. And I just love people. Sometimes I don't say that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, really not a fan of people right now. I just want to stay in my house. But I think honestly, when you're in any sort of position as a para, as a home, even like moms that are just stay-at-home moms, anything, like sometimes you're just like, I just don't want to talk to people. I just sit in the dark,
definitely
decompress. And it's not like because people did anything in particular that I didn't like. It's just like no people today.
Yeah, and it's stimulating. I mean, that's a lot of stimulation. It's a lot of stimulation that takes a lot of energy, mentally, emotionally. And sometimes you just don't want people. Sometimes I think anybody could probably say that, honestly. I'm like,
oh, absolutely. Anybody, that deals with coworkers or
anything. If you're working around people, sometimes you don't want to people. Absolutely.
Especially if you're not a huge fan of those people or and it's actually caused, like, I wouldn't say like an issue, but it's caused like some like questions in my marriage because my husband would be like, oh, well, why don't you ever just want like hug? Why don't you want to cuddle anymore? It's like, I'm touched all the time, like at school. And when I come home, I don't want to be touched. I just want to be.
That makes
and then
sense.
I feel bad because all he wants is a hug. And I'm like, ugh, I don't even want a hug. And so I
do
have
that to Cliff. Oh my god.
So sometimes I just really have to hone in and be like, it's not about you all the time. Just give him a hug for 30 seconds and he'll leave you alone.
He's not trying to hold on for life. He's just trying to hold on for 30 seconds.
Oh, for
That's
real.
funny. But I get that. That is a struggle. I get that. I'm really bad about that with my son and my husband. I'm like, please get off me.
Especially because like Judea, she's supposed to be held by you all the time and she wants to be all over you. And so
no, my daughter is a lot, you guys. I don't know if people realize. Okay, this is what I should say. My daughter is a lot in the personality. My daughter is not hard to take care of. So I've noticed that I've never explained that to people. When I talk about Judea, I'm like, oh, she's something else. Oh man, she's not hard to take care of. She's just a lot. She requires a lot of emotional attention, a lot of physical attention. She wants to cuddle most of the time. I just noticed my name says Cliff Bunville, so we're going to ignore that, but it doesn't matter because this is my podcast. I'm going to do what I want.
Be Cliff if I want to be Cliff.
But anyway, so yeah, sometimes guys, we have to, and Jackie knows, sometimes we have to literally sit with Judea, hold her, watch the same episode up until 4 minutes in, rewind the episode, and watch it over again. And you do that the whole time you're with her, or you have to be touching her. You have to look in her eyes. You have to put your forehead on her forehead. You have to give her every bit of attention, because if you pay attention to Kyson, you ain't cool. That's not what's up. And
she screams.
It's exhausting, you guys. She is mean to Kyson, and I'm not trying to put my daughter out there like that, but we have ruined her, I think. Like it's definitely a parenting, like we could have corrected it sooner if I would have realized that it was really jealousy. Like it is a serious issue of jealousy. And I don't assume, like in my head, I'm like, Judea doesn't even know. Maybe she doesn't know what jealousy is, but she's displaying it.
Right.
And so I'm like, Kyson can't even walk in a room, y'all, and she loses it. She will scream until he walks out of the room, and then she'll smile at you, and she's fine. So I'm like, this is crazy, because you're like, Judea doesn't understand. Judea doesn't know what she's doing. She knows what she's doing.
I think she knows exactly what she's doing, because that smile she gives is like,
Yeah. Oh, you see that?
Got what I want.
Went his room. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, he did. So you can get back to cuddling and turn Masha back on.
Well, even if it's like to a point where like she'll be fine all day, and then Nika will come home, and Nika and I will be talking like about Nika's day or my day, discussing whatever we discussed that day. And if I'm not holding Judea right next to me, and I'm not like giving her forehead loves while I'm talking to Nika, she's like, like just gets so frustrated that neither of us are paying attention to her.
It's a lot, just, like, you guys.
You love us both, but like if we're not paying all the attention on her, she's not.
It's a lot. That's why, honestly, it's hard for me to want to have friends come over if Cliff is not home to help me, because I'm not gonna get to interact with you how I want to interact with you. I'm not going to get to give genuine attention, and that bugs me, and it's hard. I mean, Cliff and I can't even make a phone call, and that girl loses her stuff. Jackie knows this too. Jackie can't even talk to Gare Bear.
No, Gare Bear called me one time. She was screaming. He's like, all right, I'll just talk to you later then, and hung up, because he was like, how? And then he got home, he's like, does she do that all day? I was like, no, she was just upset because I was on the phone with you. He's like, I can't even talk to my wife. I was like, no, not when I'm with Judea. That's Judea time. We're on Judea time. This is not Gare Bear time. It's a no-go for me, sir. Sorry.
Gosh, I don't understand. We can't even be on Marco Polo. We can't even do video calls.
Well, you done showed her where the end button is, so now she just wants to end it.
She'll try to end my mom will call, and she wants to be on the phone and talking. And shout out to my mom. I love my mom something fierce. And we don't even get to talk like we should, but she'll call, and I'm like, oh. So I'll pick it up, and all of a sudden, and my mom's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong today? What's wrong? I'm like, Mom, I'm on the phone. That's what's wrong. I'm having a conversation with another human being. So even though I can joke about it and be lighthearted, I have to tell you how frustrating as a parent it is for me and Cliff that she is like that. So it is all an attention, and that is our doing because we've allowed it because of the amount of attention we had to give her in the beginning, and we never corrected it. And I think some people think they can't correct their special needs kids because they don't know. Girl, you better correct that child. You better correct them and teach them. They do know. They do know, just not in the same way we know. So I'm just like, it's rough. It's a little rough.
And I'm glad that you like are kind of taking responsibility for it, but I feel like like you guys, you were doing what you had to do for your child at that point, and that's not ever something to apologize for.
Right.
I'll put up with it. You put up with it. Your mom will put up with it. Yeah. And shout out to Priscilla, because Priscilla is a darn good woman. She's again one of the best women that I've ever met. She's wonderful to her grandchildren. She's wonderful to you. You know, and no matter what she's going through, just like you, like there's never a negative comment from your mom. I've never heard one. She's so sweet. She just wants to help all the time, and she loves Judea.
I know. She loves that girl. Something.
I know. And Judea will be throwing a fit, and like your mom will come in and she's like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "What about me?"
So Jackie likes attention too, y'all. Let's not get this twisted, because when I come into the house, Jackie be getting upset because I'm like, "Hey, Judea, hey, Lucy, hey, Kyson," and she's just like,
the dog before me, the dog. That's like Kyson will come in and be like, "Hey, Luce," and then just walk by me. I'm like, "Yeah, hi, how was school today?"
Bad. We are listen, the Bunvilles are rude, I guess. I don't know. Cliff's really good about it. He'll walk in the door.
And that's the first
"Hey, Jacqueline."
Hi, Jacqueline. And I'm like, "You know what, Cliff? I appreciate you. Teach your wife to say hello to me."
I'm not being mean. I don't know. It's horrible. I know it. It's great. It's a great dynamic. It's great. Yeah. I think it's I will give a compliment to several people that help us. It just takes different kind of people to be a part of this everyday life. But I'm really, really, really grateful for the tribe that we do have. It's small, but it's good and consistent, dependable, loyal, loving. Okay, let me see. I do want to ask. So you and Judea have known each other for a little bit now. I don't know how long we've known you. How long have we known you?
I'd say I probably met her about 10, 11 months ago, but didn't really start watching her every day until I think March or April.
Okay. So, what is, because I don't know the names or I don't know the other kids you work with, so that's not my business. I can't ask questions about them. I would say, tell me something. Tell me one of your favorite things or a couple favorite things about Judea.
Oh, only a couple?
Oh, yeah. Don't tell me all of them.
I love her little grin when she gets excited and she goes like this and just I love when she's like laughing or I'm tickling her and she's just like throwing herself all around flailing and doing her little laugh, and like when she goes like this and like gives this like little evil look.
She's with her nose like I don't know how to do it. I can't even do it, but it is evil. It's so evil. What would you say has been the most challenging part about getting to know Jay, taking care of Jay, something that still may be challenging, or do you feel like there's anything, I guess, on that level?
I cannot think of anything on that level at all for me, actually, because it's great. It's great being friends like with Judea's parents,
right?
Especially obviously more closer to you than Cliff, but
it's okay. Cliff. You'll be all right, babe.
It's okay, Cliff. Big love. Anyway, so like I think it's easier because like if I do have a question, I don't feel like I'm bothering. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I also know you, and I know you'd want me to ask rather than just have your child sit there and scream and wonder what she wants.
Right.
You'd rather me be like, "Hey, what can I do right now?"
Right.
And you say, "Put on Masha, episode 2 or season 2, episode 4." But when she starts crying, she wants you to rewind about 3.5 minutes in.
And I hope y'all are listening to that, because that's a very crucial part of Judea. So if you ever want to hang out with Judea, I'm going to need you to take note on that.
Well, and I just think that like it's a lot easier, like I said, if you are comfortable with the parents too, because sometimes people go into things just to help people out, like on care.com or as part of their job. and they don't know them very well. So they're just trying to assume or,
do you feel like that's a problem as a para? So going back to para really quick, do you feel like it's hard when you have new students coming in that you don't really know? I've never seen how that really works with the classroom dynamic as far as like learning each child. Like, I can't imagine how hard it is to learn the children. Do you feel like their parents are good about informing or, like passing along that information? Or do you feel like that's something that needs to be stronger in order to support the school district, the classrooms?
Well, so technically I cannot speak to any of the children's parents. Like if they see me in the hallway and they say, well, how was so-and-so's day? I have to say, go talk to the teacher, which
okay, gotcha. Okay.
I sometimes feel like I'm one-on-one. I'm with this child all the time.
Yeah.
Like I know what they know. I'm the one teaching them the things. I don't understand why I can't talk to you about it. Because you're worried I'm going to slip up and say something. I'm professional. You have me as a paraprofessional. I'm a professional. I work with these children every day. Yeah. Now, do I need to go to conferences and like whatever? Right. No, I don't. But I should be able to say, well, we had a good day today, or we didn't, and this is why. But I'm not allowed to say any of that. But I will. Okay. Like my lead teacher will keep us informed, like, mom texted me this morning and said so-and-so didn't really sleep last night. So like, just so you know, if he's feeling or if he's acting crazy or a little violent or whatever, he's probably just tired. Okay. So we have parents like that. And then we have parents that like, don't know. And like, I just, it can be frustrating.
I can't relate to that. I'm the total opposite. I'm really bad. Shout out to my paras with Jadea and teachers, any teachers in the future. I'm all up in your guys' grill and I will always be up in it. Why
Well, and that's great. And I think that like, it's not for lack of like, they don't care. I think it's more of like, because a lot of those kids like are verbal, they can express themselves and that's true. They're not so worried about like, well, what's going on. But and also because my lead teacher, she's amazing about keeping in contact with the parents too. Like anything, she's like, I'll text mom, I'll text mom, I'll text dad, I'll text grandma, I'll text grandpa. Like if there's anything going on. But the communication and everything in our room is just great. And when you asked about like getting to know new students that came in, well, this year I was the new girl on the block. They were all new students to me because I had never been there before. And so it took me a lot. I had to ask a lot of questions. I started to look at their IEPs, and then ever since the beginning of the school year, there's really been no downtime. I'm here to tell you, there's just not a lot of that going on. We're down pairs, you know how it is.
And IEPs are no joke, you guys. They're a headache.
Yeah, no, and that's one other reason why I decided I did not want to go for special education, because I don't think I could do IEPs. I really think I would just pull my hair out and say, I'm done going to school. I don't want to have to do that.
If you ever need a really blunt opinion, go ask my mom about some IEPs.
Oh, no. I love your mom. I don't want a blunt opinion from her. No,
man.
Yeah, like I said, it is, but I also think it's almost more important for you to get to know the child, like interactions between you and the child versus like what you're being told or what you read. Oh, yeah. Because again, it's like how you deal with situations, how you're dealing with behaviors, good or bad, how you're dealing with something that they're dealing with, and like how to go about it is like you only know because of how you interact with each other and like how they perceive things, how you perceive things, how they mean things. Because there are kids that will say something that like somebody walk and be like, oh my goodness, and you're like, oh no, they didn't mean it like that, because truly they didn't. That's just how.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And like your dynamic with a kid versus their dynamic with their parents or family is going to be totally different anyway. So it's always, I really like that point that it's always best to kind of focus more on your dynamic with the kid, your connection with the kid, how you guys communicate, because it is totally different. Totally different.
And a lot of times, and this is nothing against parents, because I can't imagine what it would be like to have, a special needs child that does need to be in the sped room and needs all the extra help. But a lot of times they're not really, maybe overprotective is the word.
Yeah.
Or smothering almost to a point,
Yeah.
like where we can't, like
Yeah.
we feel like we can't even do our job. And
Yeah.
that's not just like right now in the school that I'm in. That's just something
Right.
I've noticed in other
In
schools.
general. Yeah.
And like with my nieces and nephews, it's like if you make excuses for these kids,
Yeah.
and sometimes like, yes, legitimate excuses. Like I'm not going to
Right.
sit here and make a nonverbal child speak words to me, and we're
Right.
not going anywhere until it's done. And
Right.
I don't care that your parents told me you can't speak. I'm going to make you speak.
Yeah.
Like nothing like that, obviously, but you know, it's just it's something. These parents
Yeah.
sometimes I will.
Oh, trust me. I know. I'm good now. Over the years, I've gotten better. I am very protective of Judea, but I only get defensive protective, smothering protective, helicopter protective when I know, how can I say this? If you show me at one point in time taking care of Judea, if you show me, um, that you're on your A game and you're on it. You're just on it all the time. You got things together. You're taking really good, thorough care of her. That's what I'm going to assume is going to happen next time you take care of her. So when I see that the quality of care is not so great, that's when I have to, because I'm like, any kid, even Kyson would be the same way. The quality of care is so important for parents. So I get that, because I've been that smothering mom. I've been the smothering mom, not because I didn't think they could do it, but just because I don't think the quality of care will be like I give it, like I deliver it. And that's okay if it's not, because parents don't have the time to give quality care like I do. Like I'm here 24/7 with this kid. So
Right.
I kind of had to step back myself, because it's not that I don't think they can do it, but that's what they're thinking. Like that's what they see. That's what they feel. Like, you don't think we can do this? You don't think we have this? You don't trust us? No. But if I see the quality of care, I need to know why. Why is the quality of care going down? Why are you not crossing your T's and dotting your I's anymore? But you did, this time last, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's definitely hard.
And I guess I shouldn't have said it like that, like smothering or whatever. I completely understand, just as a parent, like even as an aunt, I'm like, if back in the day, if somebody said, well, my teacher looked at me, I said, what teacher? What room? Yeah. I'm going to go talk to the teacher. They didn't look at you any sort of darn way.
Let's go
talk.
I'm
just going to talk to them one time. They were my third grade teacher 85 years ago, but I'm going to show them. And I loved them. I can't believe they would do that. I better go talk to them, small town stuff. But, and I guess I totally get it, but it's just also being on this end of it.
Yeah.
I guess can get a little, and it's not even that like, I don't think that you don't think we can do our job.
Right.
Sometimes it's just like, you're making it hard when there's, especially like if it's a situation where kids don't take consequence well.
Yep.
Because they're not being consequenced at home.
Yeah.
Like then they come here and they make it harder for not only themselves and the paras, but the other students in the room.
Right. Yeah.
The other students that are trying to learn.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's
that makes sense. That makes sense. It's good that you have both perspective. Because it's just, it is so hard. I think that's a big point though, to point out to everybody. Perspective, especially in this type of situation where you're dealing with special needs people, you have to be able to look at it in everybody's perspective. I'm so grateful that I'm a daughter to a teacher, because I have the utmost respect for the school district, despite the negative things that are said about the school district. I've worked in the school district as a para myself, so I respect the paras. I just respect everybody that's a part of the process and what you're doing for our children. And not many people do. A lot of people dog on the school district, the paras, the staff, what they're not doing, and I'm like, you must not realize what's going on in our world today and the shortages that are going on. You must not realize that 2 paras versus 20 some kids. Come on. Like, you have to be able to look at it in every perspective. And I hope that parents really take that away, because it's so important. Like, I understand that you're mama bear or papa bear and but try to look at it from the teacher's perspective, parents' perspective, the Board of Education perspective, whatever perspective you need to look at it, because that really honestly makes a difference as well. Honestly.
And, it's also, I also wish people would understand, like, we're on the front line. If anything ever happens, storms coming through, intruder.
Yeah. Yep.
We will be the ones to make. I will take a bullet. I will take 85 bullets.
Yeah.
And because that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Right.
what we do. And people will say, well, there's just crappy teachers here and they're not doing this, they're not doing that. I want to see you come into a classroom and just do it one day. And you know what? If you do it for one day, come back and do it again another day.
Yeah.
And then for another day, and try it for a week. Tell me how you feel after a week. And after that, about a month. And if after that you're feeling great, well, then you got yourself a new job.
Right.
Because and it's not just with teachers and
right
parents. It's any job. People have so much to say, but you've never been there. You've never been put in that position. You've never had to make any sort of certain calls. Same with nurses and doctors. Well. Are you one of those people? No. Then if you don't like their opinion, go find a different one. Right. Millions of them out here. Millions.
Right. Yeah. It all comes back to my point. I really like to point out is you have to respect everybody's struggle. You have to. You don't understand it. You don't live it day to day. All you can do is respect it, because the people that are out here bad mouthing, judging, criticizing, and they've never even lived it. And that's in any area of life. I don't care what job it is. I'm just like, be kind. Like, be kind.
It costs $0. And I can't believe we're still living in a world, man, where it's just happening so much, and it's getting to a point.
It's getting bad. It's bad.
Adults are, hurting themselves. Kids are hurting themselves because, I'm literally at a loss for words.
Yeah.
Because we're adults.
Yeah.
Adults.
We can't just support each other. We need to support each other. People need people, y'all.
Yeah, and you just treat people like something you stepped on.
Yeah.
Because then to a lot of other people, you don't look very good. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're never going to get to the top by stepping on other people.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, girl. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. It's good. It's good. Okay. Well, I can't think of any other questions, but I do want to ask, just like I ask on all my other interviews, it's just a little different with this interview, is what is a piece of encouragement? And it doesn't have to pertain to special needs people. It doesn't have to pertain to your job, but what's a piece of encouragement that you would offer other people as they're going along their journeys in life?
If you're fine where you're at, then you need to do something to better it, because I was fine for a long time. I was fine doing this. I was fine doing that. And it didn't feel any sort of way. I was just like, if this is it, I guess this is it. I'll work 3 other jobs to whatever. But until I decided, and I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 45, if you're 65 and you want to go back to school, or you want to get a different job, or you want to apply for that position. You might not, maybe you're at the school as a parent and there's a position open higher up and you're like, well, I could never. Just do it.
Yeah, just try.
Because you never know. And you're never going to, if you're not happy doing, there's that quote, like, if you love your job, you won't work a day in your life.
Right.
There's so much, with all the other hate and stuff going on in the world, at least find something that you enjoy doing. And if it doesn't bring you all the money in the world, you might have to get another job. You might have to find another income source. And that's okay. But at least like what you're doing is making you happy. Because at the end of the day, you need to be happy, because if you are happy, you are spreading happiness. You are instilling happiness. You are showing that it can be done. It will be done. And I'm not saying that, you can't have bad days. You can't be sad.
Right.
It's just like, if you're happy, if you're truly happy, it will spread, and people might not always like you for that, but that's okay. Because that's when you know that they don't belong in your tribe. Right. And that's okay, because different perspectives and everything. And that's not the thing. I really think that if you're not content where you are, if you're just fine, if you're like, there's got to be something more, go find something more. You don't have to jump into a major right away. Take some generals, then maybe you'll find something. Or if it's not college you want to do, if you want to go work over the road, go be a dump truck driver. I don't give if that's what will make you happy, then go do it. If you want to move to Alaska and do ice road truckers, then do it. Like, I don't care. I just think that and another thing, stop letting other people's opinions or what they think you should do dictate what you do.
Right.
Because
Right.
ultimately, yes, I'm married. Yes, I have dogs and I have a family to consider. But ultimately, everything that I do is up to me.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. That's good. Protect your happiness and stop worrying about the haters. No, I'm just kidding.
And
they're
just,
not all haters. Some of them are the
No.
most supportive people in the world, but they think they can dictate what you do, how you do it. So that's beautiful. I like that advice. I like it. I can roll with it. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do an interview with me. Like I said, with Divinely Different, I am trying to switch it up. I'm trying to kind of make the vision I have is a lot broader. It's a lot bigger. And I just wanted to open this up for anybody, honestly. If you have a story, if you have a journey, I want to hear about it. Doesn't matter if it involves special needs people or not. So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for taking the time. I'm excited for everyone to learn about you. She's a very important person to our family. So y'all, you need to listen in on this podcast episode. So thank you so much, Jacqueline.
Well, you know what, Nika, thank you for inviting me. This was fun. I was a little nervous. I wasn't quite sure. You wouldn't tell me what you were going to ask.
I never do.
Which really helped my anxiety a whole lot.
But it just flows. It flows. Tell the listeners it flows.
And again, it's when it's something you're passionate about and you love it, it's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
There are some things that, on the points aren't easy to talk about, but easy to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
I get it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I love you. All right, listeners. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Couldn't think of what to say for a second.